Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World as One. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching World DNA with me, Hema Korsaro. And here's a look at all the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
We got him. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th.
The hunt for the suspect in the shooting of Charlie Kirk ends with the arrest of 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Police say the suspect targeted Kirk as he believed that right-wing activist was spreading hate. Poland at the United Nations says it knows Russia's drone incursion was no mistake. About 40 of Poland's allies denounced the intrusion, calling on Moscow to avoid further provocations. The UN General Assembly backs New York declaration which seeks a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine but without the involvement of Hamas. India among the 142 countries who voted in favor of the declaration. The Gaza Civil Defense Agency says 50 people killed in Israeli military operations on Friday. IDF continues strikes on infrastructure and high-rise structures in Gaza City capture the territory's largest urban center. Donald Trump to meet Qatar's Prime Minister for dinner meeting in the wake of Israeli strikes on Hamas in Doha. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is also attending the meeting. Nepal's parliament dissolved just hours after former Chief Justice Sushila Karke took the oath as the country's interim Prime Minister in the wake of the deadly anti-corruption protests. The election for a new government is set for March next year. At least 9 people have died after a tanker lorry crashed into a procession heading for the immersion of the Ganpati idol at Karnataka's Hassan district. Delhi police arrest 5 individuals for allegedly transporting illicit liquor, 42 cartons of illicit liquor, 24 bottles of beer and 3 camels used in the illegal transportation recovered. G7 finance ministers met Friday to discuss tougher sanctions on Russia and tariffs on nations buying its oil. The US urged allies to target China and India as pressure mounts to cut off funding for Putin's war. All right, news coming in right now. Charlie Kirk's widow Erica made her first public statement following the death of her husband Charlie Kirk. The 36-year-old began her speech by thanking law enforcement and first responders who struggled heroically to save Charlie's life, and the police who acted bravely to ensure there were no other victims. Speaking through tears, Erica thanked Donald Trump and his family for their support. She also praised Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha for honoring Kirk and helping bring him home.
I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well, as did he for you.
She also pledged that Charlie Kirk's message will continue. His campus tour to US universities will keep going on, and so will the podcast that he hosted. She ended her message with a pledge to Charlie that she would never let his legacy die, saying, "In a world filled with chaos, doubt, and uncertainty, my husband's voice will remain." Let's just once again listen to the statement made by Erica Kirk.
I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well, as did he for you.
And the hunt for the suspect in the shooting of Charlie Kirk has ended with the arrest of 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. More details are emerging about the shooting and the motive as well. Police say the suspect targeted Kirk as he believed that the right-wing activist was spreading hate. Kirk, a close ally of Donald Trump, was shot while speaking at an event on Wednesday at Utah Valley University. Since then, FBI and local law enforcement authorities had launched an intensive search for the suspect. After 33 hours, Tyler Robinson was taken into custody after his father and a friend helped turn him in late Thursday evening.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Now, it was President Trump who announced the arrest on Fox News before Governor Cox formally made the announcement. Trump said a minister with close ties to law enforcement communicated with the suspect's father to report him to authorities.
Somebody close to him turned and, they said, "Whoa, it's interesting." Where we had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him.
Robinson was detained in Washington County, the area where he lived with family, about 400 kilometers southwest of Orem, where the shooting took place. He is a former student of Utah University, where he had attended one semester in 2021. Robinson's family said that he had become more political in recent years and had discussed Kirk's upcoming event, criticizing the conservative influencer. He was registered to vote as unaffiliated to any political party. Authorities say Robinson used a high-powered bolt-action rifle firing from the roof of a building up to 200 yards away from his target. They said the killer was lying. and a position lying prone, a position that can increase accuracy. Much attention has been focused on inscriptions found on the bullet casings as well found at the crime scene. One cartridge had written on it, "Hey fascist, catch." Another featured Bella Ciao, apparently a reference to a Second World War era Italian anti-fascist song. Other cartridges were marked with symbols and wording that appeared to be from the online gaming culture. According to authorities, evidence collected includes messages Robinson allegedly sent on a social platform about retrieving a rifle from a hidden location. Other messages also referred to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique, and that he had changed outfits after the shooting. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
The suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk has been identified as 23-year-old Tyler Robinson after a 33-hour manhunt. Tyler Robinson was taken into custody in Utah and is being held without bail. Robinson faces several initial charges, including aggravated murder, but formal charges are expected on Tuesday when he also makes his very first court appearance. New details show Robinson was a third-year student in an electric apprentice program at Dixie Technical College. What's next? Prosecutors will review evidence and file charges on Tuesday, while investigators continue pressing Robinson for answers, though so far he's refused to speak. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Now, after days of chaos and unrest during the anti-corruption protest by Gen Z protesters and ouster of its former leader, Nepal is set for a new beginning as its first female Prime Minister takes charge, Sushila Karki, who is former Supreme Court Chief Justice, who took charge as the country's interim Prime Minister on Friday. The oath of office was administered by Nepal's president in a small ceremony at the presidential palace, which was attended by diplomats and some former leaders. Karki will lead a 6-month transition government until the next election set for March 2026. Following the swearing-in ceremony, Nepal's parliament was dissolved by President Paudel on the recommendation of Prime Minister Sushila Karki. Karki's appointment came after long negotiations, which were mediated by Nepal's army chief Ashok Raj Sigdel. Thousands of young activists used the online app Discord to debate the next steps and name Karki as their choice of next leader, citing her reputation for honesty and integrity. Key youth protest group Hami Nepal posted on Instagram saying, "We did it," and called for unity. Elated Gen Z supporters have expressed their happiness on social media, and many see this as the next step in the new political course they want the country to take. Outside the presidential palace, a crowd of supporters gathered and lit candles and cheered for the new Prime Minister.
मलाई एकदमै राम्रो लागिरहेको छ। अब हाम्रो नयाँ सरकार जो आइराख्नु भएको छ उहाँले पनि अब नयाँ चेन्ज ल्याउनु भयो। मलाई एकदमै धेरै नै होप छ हैन, अनि म एकदम एक्साइटेड पनि छु त्यसको लागि।
हामीलाई लाग्छ कि सायद सुनौलो दिन अब सुरु भयो। अब वी आर भेरी एक्साइटेड। सबभन्दा पहिला यो कि अब जुन पहिलो महिला न्यायाधीश हुनुहुन्थ्यो त्यही नै हाम्रो देशको पहिलो प्रधानमन्त्री भन्नुभयो।
73-year-old Sushila Karki is known for her stand against corruption in the government while serving as the Chief Justice. Some lawmakers had tried to impeach her back in April 2017, accusing her of bias, but the motive was unsuccessful and was criticized at the time as an attack on the judiciary. Karki graduated as an art student, later studied political science at Banaras Hindu University in 1975. She participated in the 1990 People's Movement to overthrow the Panchayat regime and was jailed during this time as well. Various countries, including UK and India, welcomed the appointment of Sushila Karki. The British Embassy in Kathmandu said that Karki's appointment was an important step after last week's events that led to the loss of lives and affirmed its support towards accountability and inclusive governance. India's Ministry of External Affairs in a statement said that the formation of a new interim government in Nepal would help in fostering peace and stability. It further said that India will continue to work closely with Nepal for the well-being and prosperity of the two countries. Meanwhile, Nepal Army continues to patrol the streets in a bid to restore normalcy in the country. The army said that it had recovered more than 100 guns looted in the uprising, during which protesters were seen brandishing automatic rifles. As per Nepal police, more than 12,500 prisoners who escaped from jails across the country during the chaos are still at large. On the other hand, the ousted Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, leader of the Communist Party, who resigned amid the violence, remains absent from the scene and his whereabouts are not known. For more on this, WION's correspondent Saloni Murarka is joining us live on the broadcast from Kathmandu. Saloni, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, yesterday we were discussing how there was some discord when it came to the pick of Sushila Karki as the interim Prime Minister. We were talking about why the different political factions are not stepping up. That being said, now Sushila Karki has been sworn in. That being said, what do you think are the next steps and what has been the general reaction?
Well, of course, this agreement has been reached after days of intensive discussions and consultations between the president and the protest leaders. And many of the legal experts were also involved in these talks. And as we know, the parliament has been dissolved. It was dissolved late last night. And the general elections, fresh elections, have been announced for March next year. And Sushila Karki is expected to appoint ministers in her cabinet with a few days more. She is widely regarded as a person of clean image and is being supported by the student leaders. However, her cabinet will face multiple challenges. Firstly, the restoring law and order, reconstructing the parliament and other key buildings that were attacked during the Gen Z's protest. And also, many of the people in Kathmandu, they're hopeful and they have welcomed her appointment. But others in Nepal are also a little fearful because it's a young democracy and they believe that constitutional order should not be derailed. And one other major key task that she will face will be to bring those responsible for violence to justice. And on Tuesday, Sushila Karki also visited protest sites where almost 19 people were killed on that particular day. And she also met with some of the injured people. So we'll have to see on how she tries to go hand in hand with the supporters as well and assure the public that the country is slowly limping back to normalcy. But at the moment, Nepal's army is still patrolling the streets of Kathmandu because of the potential protests that could break out of the Gen Z's group who are not in support of Karki's appointment.
All right. Well, that being said, Saloni, if you were just to talk about the immediate next steps of this interim government, what are the challenges that lie ahead? We understand that this is a 6-month transition government until the elections in March for next year. So what will be the immediate challenges that Sushila Karki faces now?
Well, first she'll have to set up a cabinet and then also restore a little law and order in the country, because for the past few days, in fact for this whole week, the country was completely shut down with no businesses taking place, and also assured the youngsters that she will be fulfilling their expectations and that their consensus will be reflected in her ruling. Of course, this is the interim government, so she has a very short period of time. The elections are there in March. And also, we'll have to see how the other political leaders and the political parties will react. As I spoke to some of them, they have not welcomed the decision to dissolve the parliament. But under the circumstances, the president himself agreed. Earlier, he was not ready to dissolve the parliament. And then later in the evening, he agreed to this. And for this is what I believe, and the reconstruction of the key buildings, I believe, because as we know, the Supreme Court has been completely shattered. The parliament, the Singha Darbar, which is the main administrative buildings and holds all the ministries of Nepal, the finance ministry, home ministry, have also been severely damaged. And a new building for the prime minister has been set up where the small meetings can be taken place, and many of the people who will be leading the ministries can also sit in those buildings and continue the work.
All right. Well, Saloni, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. Of course, We will continue to keep a track on how things develop in Nepal in the days to come. And the US has pledged to protect every inch of NATO territory after a suspected Russian drone incursion into Polish airspace. NATO has launched Operation Eastern Sentry to bolster the alliance's eastern flank. NATO fighter jets, including Polish F-16s and Dutch F-35s, scrambled to intercept multiple drones that crossed into Poland's airspace during Russia's large-scale attack on Ukraine on Wednesday. The incident was deemed a provocation by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who invoked Article 4 of NATO's treaty, prompting emergency consultations among member states. Russia has claimed that the drones were targeting Ukraine and couldn't have reached Polish territory due to their limited range of 700 kilometers.
The United States stands by our NATO allies in the face of these alarming airspace violations. The United States is consulting with Poland and our other NATO allies under Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty. And rest assured, we will defend every inch of NATO territory. This incident does not help the extraordinary efforts that the United States has undertaken in recent weeks to broker an end to the war.
The US, along with other countries, also joined a joint statement condemning Russia's actions, accusing it of violating international law and the UN Charter. According to reports, at least 46 out of 193 UN member states have signed a joint declaration, presenting evidence of Russian lettering on downed drones. Poland's Secretary of State, Marcin Boskaki, said that the incident was not a mistake.
Two days ago, they tried to target Polish homes. This is one of them, in a village called Wyryki in eastern Poland. A representative of the Russian Federation claimed that maybe these were not Russian drones. This is the evidence of that, including signs in Russian on the parts of the drone.
Meanwhile, NATO chief Mark Rutte has said that the alliance would reinforce the defense of its eastern flank, which would involve a range of assets from allies including Denmark, France, the United Kingdom and Germany. Addressing the Yalta European Strategy Conference, Zelensky jokingly offered the US envoy Keith Kellogg Ukrainian citizenship, comparing him to an air defense system.
Комусь може здаватися, що обміни територіями чи спроба спокусити Путіна відновленням торгівлі з Америкою чи світом начебто може зупинити цю війну. Це не так. Російська машина війни зупиниться тільки тоді, коли у неї закінчиться пальне.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha discussed drone incursions with his Polish counterpart and offered help as well. Joining his Ukrainian counterpart, Denmark's Foreign Minister Rasmussen claimed that Russia's behavior poses a significant threat to European security as a whole.
What we witnessed most recently, just a few days ago, with the violation of Polish airspace, only underlines that Russia's aggressive behavior is a threat to European security as a whole.
And for more on this, the correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
The United Nations Security Council held an emergency session on Friday after Russian drones entered Polish territory, raising fears the war in Ukraine could spill into NATO airspace. Poland and its allies called the incident a deliberate provocation, while Russia denied targeting Poland specifically. The foreign ministers of Ukraine, Poland, and Lithuania labeled it an unprecedented escalation. NATO is now weighing its military posture as U.S.-led peace efforts remain stalled. Polish airspace has been violated many times since Russia's all-out invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but never on this scale in Poland or anywhere else in NATO territory. Susan Tarhwani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Now, Syria is negotiating with Israel to reach a security agreement that would see Israel leave areas it occupied after the December overthrow of Bashar al-Assad. Following the fall of Assad government last year, Israel deployed troops to the UN-patrolled buffer zone on the Golan Heights, which has separated Israeli and Syrian forces since an armistice that followed the 1973 Arab-Israeli War. Israel has also launched hundreds of airstrikes on targets in Syria and carried out incursions deeper into the south. In an interview with state-run TV, Syria's interim president Ahmad al-Shara said that the negotiations with Israel are ongoing to restore the 1974 agreement that established a demilitarized separation zone between the two countries, stationing a UN peacekeeping force to maintain calm.
ونحن الآن في طور مفاوضات ونقاش عن موضوع الاتفاق أمني، لأن سوريا كانت في السابق هي كانت في حالة حرب مع إسرائيل، ثم بعد حرب 73 في 74 جرى اتفاق. اعتبرت إسرائيل سقوط النظام أن سوريا خرجت من هذا الاتفاق حاليا في 74، رغم أن سوريا من أول لحظة أبدت التزامها باتفاق 74.
In the same interview, al-Shara called Russia a global power and added that relations between the United Nations must be preserved.
ارتباطات في الطاقة، لديها ارتباطات في الغذاء، لديها ارتباطات في السلاح، لديها ارتباطات متعددة مع روسيا سابقا ورثناها نحن يعني تلقائيا، فينبغي الحفاظ عليها وإدارتها بطريقة هادئة ورزينة.
Now, he warned Kurds against attempting to divide the country, saying this would significantly harm Turkey and Iraq. Al-Shara said that Syria will not give up a single grain of its soil and his government will protect Syrian territory and its people. All right, and trade talks between India and the European Union have entered a decisive stage, with bilateral trade already at $137 billion. Negotiators are racing against a year-end deadline to seal a free trade pact that could reshape economic ties, but the talks are complicated by high tariff agricultural sensitivities and the US pressure over Russian oil.
We are now maximizing our efforts to finalize negotiations by the end of the year, as it was agreed by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and Prime Minister Modi when we've been here, as I mentioned earlier this year. And we are striving to put in place an economically meaningful win-win package that brings real added value to businesses and consumers both in Europe and here in India. Because this would enable us to work together in the areas where cooperation will bring additional value and where it definitely makes sense.
The EU is India's largest trading partner in goods, with trade doubling over the past decade. Both sides are pushing for a deal to boost investment, reduce trade barriers and strengthen supply chains. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. News and updates continue on the other side on WION World is One. Stay tuned.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
As Gilmore Girls completes 25 years, here's decoding what makes it an all-time favorite fall show. Know why low-rise denims are making a comeback.